Well, hello there. Welcome back. It's another great late night here in the garage to do some work. It is actually Super Bowl week. If you can't tell, that's who I'm going for. Go Chiefs. It's been a couple weeks. I actually had to stop this project to help out a referred friend who had a broke down car. Got that taken care of. Now we're back to business. Also, some other stuff happened in that time frame that delayed my next work, and that is dealing with the cooling fan. After talking with the owner and dealing with the modification, started searching for some cooling fan options in the electric setup. Found out they make a somewhat direct fit replacement electric dual fan assembly, and the gains from removing the mechanical fan are about 17 to 20 horsepower. Once I told him that, he said, ordered, no brainer, let's do it. So with that said, what we're gonna do, say goodbye to this. And more importantly, say goodbye to that. Plan tonight is to work on this electric fan setup. I'm going to get it bolted in. Depending on how much extra wiring is given, will depend if I actually get it 100% wired or if I'll just get the main components wired and just come back and just do the miscellaneous wiring. What it'll come with, I've done some of these before, is it does have a module that will kick the fans on for air conditioning. So when you kick that on, and then it's got a temperature probe that you install that's got an adjustable rheostat so that you can fine tune it to what temperature you want it to kick on low, and then it'll ramp up to high speed and do those kinds of things. So really nice setup. There's just going to be some things that need to be wired up, so we'll see what happens. I still have it in the original packaging. We're going to do an unboxing video here in just a second. So I'm going to get things set up, and then we're just going to get rolling. All right, here is our sweet new direct, I should say sort of direct replacement cooling fan setup. You see I still have the shipping straps on it. Here's the world's dullest cutters here. Just going. So, pull this thing out. Nice and careful, like. Instructions. Troubleshooting. Yeah, I don't need that. Pretty nice brackets. Don't know if I'll use some of that. If it's too cheap looking, I'll be doing something different. Bolts. This is another reason I thought this was good, is this has a bracket for the extra reservoir for the intercooler cooling system. So we weren't going to have that with the 4.6 shroud I was thinking about modifying, so this is going to make things much nicer. Then we look here, the fan setup, pretty sturdy part. It's got threaded holes here for the brackets to mount to the factory radiator without having any kind of like weird universal setup. You got a nice rubber seal all the way around, so you get a good sealing surface to get maximum airflow pulled through the radiator itself. I had watched some videos on this previously before I even brought it up, and that's one of the reasons why once I found this part number, I thought it was a pretty good piece. It's made by Flex-a-Lite, so it's going to be, I think, a pretty good option for this truck. So without further ado, I'm going to get things set up. I may or may not time lapse. I might just do some live action stuff here once I get it set up, but let's get in it. Brief update here. This is day 2 of the fan install. I, for some reason, couldn't find my wire crimpers last night, so I brought the pair home from work. And so what I did last night, I did some miscellaneous things, and I got this mocked up just to see as far as fitment goes. And as you can tell, get a little bit more view of the supercharger. This bracket for the reservoir that goes for the intercooler lines right there fits quite nice. Everything's gonna look right. It's gonna look where it is. So now all I got left to do is mount this module up. It's gonna go right here. This is where the setup has it going. You just drill some holes here into the fan shroud, route them in behind it, and then route it how you go, connect the fans, and go from there. So I'll disassemble this mock-up a little bit and then get things wired up, and then just move forward from there. All right, so I've got the fans pre-wired up, and I'm just gonna kind of show what we've got going on here. So brackets, they bolt here on the side, keep them a little bit loose. It allows for better fitment and easier install. But take and move this out of the way. If you look right here, I took and drilled holes in the plastic to loop the wires in, which they say only to do the yellow and purple for the power wire of the fans here. But I went ahead and looped the main power wires in. That way I can run them in and behind everything, keep it out of the way. And then the same here for your smaller gauge stuff. You have the very bottom, you have some black ones that are for your temperature probe, which looks like this. It's going to stick into the radiator. On some of the other cars, I've put stuff like this in. I use a screw-in sender in the intake, but being that there's very little real estate and this isn't that high end of a build, I'm just going to use this one. The reviews say it works really good overall, so we'll just use that for now, and if we ever have to revisit it, we can. It's just a lot of work because I'll have to take the whole intake out, drill a hole, tap a hole, get the proper temp sender and stuff like that. And this just isn't that high end of a build. It's a quality build, but it's not the show car type where you need it to be absolutely perfect. So this one will suffice. I have this running in behind here. It'll stick in to the fins of the radiator, and then I've got red and green. Red's going to be the ignition, green's going to be for the AC. They say to go down and tap by the AC compressor, but me being a technician by day-to-day stuff, I see a lot of long-term issues with tapping in the areas that see the most road debris and crime and things like that. And I really don't want to compromise the wiring to the AC compressor, because this truck will likely get driven through inclement weather, mostly rain and things like that. I doubt it'll ever see snow or anything like that, but you're going to get road grime and things up in there. And while I could tap into it and do my best to seal it up, it still won't be perfect. So I routed it in a different area. I have it running all the way along here with the power wire, and I'm going to put it up in the fuse box. Ford did use an air conditioning relay, so there's going to be a perfectly good wire. The exact same wire that's going to go down to the AC compressor is going to be over there in the fuse box. So I'm going to run them both over there. It'll be less wiring and less directions. It'll look less spaghetti-like, and I'll have it loomed up. And again, I'm all about quality and extreme long-term use. Most of my cars I use for a very, very long time. Hot rods, other things like that. I just don't get rid of them. This truck's going to be no exception for the owner. And so I don't want to do something that's only going to last a few years. I want to do something that's going to last. It's hard to say last forever, but it's going to last a really long time. And that's what we're about. So I'm going to get this slapped on in here and get this thing bolted up, and then see where we're at. All right, so what we got going on here is you can see that the fan is nice and mounted. Probably better if I get into a reverse shot here. But you can see how we have that mounted in. Looks pretty good overall. I got most of the wiring hidden in this general area. You can see the ignition wire and the AC wire that I have coming out over here. I still need to hook those up. I don't have the proper wiring diagrams here at the house, so I'm going to get that. Ignition's pretty easy to find inside, but I'm going to have to route it inside, which isn't a big deal, but I'm going to go ahead and source some split loom to make it look up pretty good. But then if we look over here, that is the reservoir for the intercooler setup. So it's a really, really tight fit with all the stuff shoved in here. The radiator hose bends up around there and is actually touching it a little bit, likely due to all this aftermarket stuff. It's just a little bit of a different fit. Don't have it fully mounted because if we look right there, that is the nipple. It's a 3/4 nipple, but everything else is 5/8 hose. So I need to spend some time finding a part number for a hose that starts off as 3/4 that just trims out into 5/8. We had bought a used pump assembly on eBay. Already had a new pump anyway, but we realistically just bought this one for the bracket setup so that I can mount it. But for whatever reason, when people rip stuff apart, they get all cut happy. I would have had a perfectly good hose had they just taken the time to take this off the reservoir itself. So I mean, it is what it is. We weren't that fortunate this time around, but this is basically the hose I'm going to need to figure something out to make, which I will. There's enough stuff out there that I can make something work that's not going to be cobbled together at all. But you can see it's really coming together. I have all the engine stuff's really looking like it's about to be done here underneath the hood. Airbox can go back in once I get this wiring and things like that hooked up. The last big engine compartment hurdle is going to be the throttle cable. Seems so simple, but yet the cable for 97 trucks is different from 2000. The ends are all a little bit different, so I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to bracket that in and use make the two sides work, basically, because I do keep the 97 pedal because it fit on the firewall versus the 2000 pedal that came with the kit did not to mention they didn't even send a throttle cable with it either. So just some little stuff. That's what we're getting down to, is the little nitty gritty to make things work out. Well, it's about midnight here in the garage. I can't work too many late nights. I'm getting up at 6 a.m. So need to go inside and finish up for the night. But I have basically the cooling system is pretty much done, with the exception of just running the hoses for the intercooler setup. But radiators in, transcooler lines are all the way done. Radiator hoses are all the way done. I do need to put in the reservoir for the main radiator as well. But again, I need to get the wiring stuff set up before I get that corner done. And then what's left under the hood, we have throttle cable, and then I have some miscellaneous wiring that was damaged in all the transfers for mostly the lights on the front, and then the intercooler pump. I have a new pigtail for it. And then things that are left to make it drive, I have that wiring I just mentioned, and then tail light harness in the back for the 2000, so it'll mate up to the harness here for the 2000. And then exhaust. That's going to be the last big piece for the truck so that it can run and drive. I can fire it up, no exhaust. We've already seen that happen. But bleeding the cooling system, doing the checks and things like that, I want the catalytic converters on. It does not stink near as bad with those on there. And then quieter. I don't want to be super loud. I don't want to be that guy that's just blasting my neighborhood out with open exhaust and things like that, especially with as late as I work on this. If I have exhaust and things like that on there, I can run this. I can do what I need to do, no problem at all. But the exhaust is going to be a bit tricky. I did get a basically kind of like a hot rod do-it-yourself exhaust kit in 2.5 inch. It's got 90s, 45s, straights, things like that. I should have enough pieces there that I can modify the 4.6 Y pipe, which is basically the same catalytic converters, just in a different configuration. I should be able to modify that to make it all work and get everything where it is. But I am getting just really, really close here. So we're getting to the point where we can really see the pavement up ahead and being able to get this thing driving, which is great news. It's been way too long since this truck's driven on its own, so gives me chills just thinking about that. It's not too far off before I'm going to be sitting behind there driving it, taking videos for the owners. So with that said, that's going to end another night here. Like, follow, subscribe, comment, do all those things. Hey, go Chiefs. Super Bowl Sunday coming right up.